Good morning, second graders. Today is Tuesday, May 12th. And today we're really going to use alliteration because I am going to call today Tricky, Twisty Tuesday. And you know why? Because we are actually going to flip around math and reading. So on the video at first, normally we do reading and then we do math. Today we're going to do math first. So it's kind of tricky. I need you to stay on the video for the whole thing because we'll do reading right after math. So don't go away for that. And it's twisty because we're twisting those around. So how do you like that? Tricky, Twisty Tuesday. So we are starting a unit on telling time. And yesterday we read the story, Clocks and More Clocks. And the reason that we're doing math first is so that I can hold up my big teacher clock. And that's kind of hard to see under the camera. And that's sometimes where we do math is under the camera. So today we wanted to do math first so that you could see my big teacher clock. Because my teacher clock is kind of cool. It does something that the little clocks don't do. And I'll show you what that is in just a second. So I'm going to show you this, tell you a little bit more about telling time. We looked at the vocabulary cards yesterday, so we know a little bit. But today, I'm going to talk to you about this clock. First of all, this is called an analog clock. That was one of our vocabulary words yesterday. So this is an analog clock where it has a minute hand and it has an hour hand. Okay, so when you have a full day, a whole entire day is 24 hours, and some of you might already know that. 12 hours are called AM hours at morning, and 12 hours are PM hours, past morning. Okay, and we talked a little bit about those on the vocabulary cards too, but we're actually going to have a lesson on AM and PM, so I'll talk more about that on that day. Okay, so on your analog clock, we have this red hand. It's called the short hand, and it's shorter than this hand. Can you tell that this is shorter than this hand? The short hand is called the hour hand, and that points to the hours. And all of these red numbers right here are your hours, and that's why this short hand, the hour hand, is red, because the red points to the red. And the other hand on the clock, you kind of think of this as a face of a clock. That's kind of what they call it. And these are hands, which is kind of weird, isn't it? But that's what they call it. The other hand on the clock is a minute hand, and that's the longer one. And you can tell it's longer because that actually goes up and almost touches the blue numbers around the outside. And the blue numbers are called the minutes. Okay, so the red numbers are your hours. That's your hour hand. It points to the hours. Your blue is called your minute hand, and it points to the blue numbers, which are your minutes. So if you can see on my clock, you can see that this is on the 12 right here and the 10. So this is called 10 o'clock. Okay? Now watch what happens as I move my blue hand. Watch what happens to the red hand. See if you notice anything as my minute hand is moving. What's happening to the hour hand? Look at it. As I'm going around the clock, this hour hand is starting to go towards the next hour. Okay, and that's because 1 hour equals 60 minutes. Okay, so hopefully you notice that. Now it's at 11 o'clock. Now watch as I go around. My minute hand is moving, and look at the hour hand. See, it's moving closer to the 12, and voila, now it's 12 o'clock. Isn't that cool? That only works on my teacher clock. When we have these little clocks that you can use, that doesn't work as well. So that's why I wanted to use my big teacher clock today. All right, so each of these little dots here, from here to here to here to here to here, those are 1 minute. And 1 minute is 60 seconds. Okay, I don't have a second hand on this clock, but at school on our clock in the wall, we do have a second hand, don't we? So what happens is as we go each minute, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so it's on the 1, but we say 5 because that's been 5 minutes. Okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's why you see these blue numbers counting 5, 10, 15, 20, because each one of those dots is 1 minute. And there's 5 of them between each red number. Now, today we're just going to talk about the hour hand. So it's going to be pretty easy today. And when you talk about the hour hand, that is when the minute hand is way up here on the 12 and it points to the 60. And really the reason that it's 60 is because when you count to the 5 minute, you count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, right? But when you write the time, you don't write 12.60. You write 12.00, and that means o'clock. So really the 60, I wish that they'd put 0 up there because that's when the new hour starts over, okay? So today, I want you to watch. It's on the 12 o'clock, and as I move my minute, okay, and I pretend that this is way faster than normal, of course, but as I go around one time around the clock, that's 60 minutes, and so it turned to a new hour. And watch again. Now it's 1 o'clock. I'm going to go around, pretend my minutes are flying by here, and voila, comes back up to the 12, and now it's 2 o'clock. So each time this minute hand goes once around, that's 1 hour. And you can see my hour hand moving to the next hour. Now it's 3 o'clock. And if I do it again, and it goes around, it went around once, and look, it's a new hour, 4 o'clock, okay? So this is the hour hand, points to the red numbers. This is my minute hand, and it looks at the blue numbers on the outside of the clock, okay? All right, and we will talk more about the clock as we keep going in our math lesson. So we are going to correct our math from yesterday, and we are going to get going on today's assignment. And then after we're done with math, we're going to do our reading assignment. So stay tuned for that as well. So if you need to go get your math packet and a pencil, make sure you have your sheet from yesterday. We'll look at that, and we will get going on that. And while you're at it, go ahead and get your reading packet. Today you're going to need pages 3 and 4 in your reading packet. Well, hopefully you thought this Am I Ready page was pretty easy. So the digital clock, I'm just going to show you the answers really fast. You should have put 7 o'clock because that's the hour, and 00 means o'clock. And 5 o'clock, so you should have circled this. So this is the same as this. That was really easy, wasn't it? Number 3, we're supposed to fill in the missing numbers, so you should have had 6 and 10. Number 4, you were counting by 2s, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. And number 5, you were counting by 5s. And I think they had you do that because when we tell time to the minute, sometimes we count by 5s. Okay, and number 6, you should have circled afternoon because she was walking home from school. And then on the back side, I kind of gave you some clues. So hopefully you did that. Told me what you did in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening. And these were my examples. In the morning, I eat breakfast. In the afternoon, I work at my computer. And in the evening, I go for a walk after dinner. So I'm sure yours were different than that, but hopefully yours made sense with what time of day it was. All right, so our matrix today for Tuesday says, Chapter 10, Lesson 1, Do Guided Practice, numbers 1 to 3 on page 594 in your math packet. Tell a family member your answer to the talk math question. So remember, before we even start the guided practice, we always do the Math in My World page. Okay, so this is Lesson 1, and it's page 593. And we always ask our essential question, how do I use and tell time? And that's what we're going to be answering this unit on our telling time. So you should be on Lesson 1, Time to the Hour. So what you're supposed to do on Math in My World is you're supposed to finish filling in the clock, okay? So we have missing numbers, and these are our hours. So on my teacher clock, these were the red numbers, okay? So you should put a 1 here and a 3. So go ahead and fill it in right with me. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And they call this clockwise because it goes around like a clock. And it goes in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, okay? And earlier in the video, I showed you what it looked like when it moved to a new hour. Okay, so you knew that if there was a minute hand right here and it went all the way around the clock once, then it changed into a new hour, and that red hour hand moved ahead to the next hour. Okay, and that's why these, like right here, where it has these blue marks, okay, those are how you count by 5. So you count 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And that's why we often count by 5s when we tell time. So when it's on the red number, then the blue number we count by 5, which is a little confusing, and we'll get into that later in the chapter. Okay, so what we had to do was draw hands on the clock to show 4 o'clock and write the time. Now remember, the minute hand is longer than the hour hand. So if you're showing 4 o'clock, your hour hand is shorter, and it points right to the hour, but it doesn't touch it. Okay, and o'clock is when your blue minute hand, the long hand, touches the 12. And if we were at school right now, I'd walk around and I'd make sure that your minute hand all went high enough to touch through the 12 and to touch that blue part, that minute. Okay, so it should look like that, and that shows 4 o'clock. And then in your blank, you can write 4 o'clock. And another way to write it is 4 dot dot 0 0, and that means o'clock as well. Did you know that this is a contraction? It means of the clock. Pretty cool, huh? All right, on the back, our guided practice. So it says, on an analog clock, the hour hand points to the hour. It is shorter. The minute hand points to the minute. It is longer. And look at all of these yellow words. Those are the vocabulary words that we talked about with our vocabulary cards yesterday. And it shows you a picture. Here's the blue one. Well, actually, it's black on here, but on my clock, it's blue, minute hand, and it's the long one. And this is the shorter hand. It's called the hour hand, and it's the red one. Points to the hour. So that's why the longer hand, the minute hand, has to go all the way through the number so that you're actually pointing at the minutes. Okay? The digital clock shows the hour and minutes on a screen. So this one right here, the first number is the hour, and these 2 numbers are the minutes after the hour. Okay? In this case, they're 0 0, which means it's 3 o'clock, and that's what they want you to write right here. 3 o'clock. This one's 3 o'clock. On an analog clock, this is what 3 o'clock looks like on a digital clock. All right, so your job today is to do 1 through 3. So you get to look at both of these this clock right here, the analog clock, and you need to write the time on the digital clock. And also, what would it be here? Okay, so look at where the hour hand points. Write it down, and then write it right here, just like we did up above, where we had 3 o'clock, and then it was 3 o'clock here, and 3 o'clock here. All of those are the same. Okay, so you need to do that for numbers 1, 2, and 3. So look at your hour hand. And then at the bottom, how is an analog clock similar to a number line? Ooh. So tell a family member how an analog clock is similar to a number line. Okay, good luck with that. All right, for reading today, we are going to talk about something called making inferences. And making inferences is something that you do as a good reader. And I'm actually going to show you this. Okay, and it's called making inferences. And you might wonder what that means. So it says, how do readers make inferences? Good readers make inferences by using their background knowledge and text evidence together in order to understand the text. And there's this really cool picture. Here's a book. So the text says something, and then you're going to think about what you already know about that topic, and that equals an inference. So the text says, plus I already know, equals, so I can infer. Okay? Readers make inferences to figure out things about characters and events in the text that the author doesn't directly tell them. Number 1, first, think, what does the text tell me? Number 2, then, think, what do I already know? And number 3, lastly, think, so what can I infer? And some of those things that you can think of, these are what you maybe can say in your head as you're reading. Based on what I read and what I already know, I can predict that blank because blank. Or this could mean blank. Or my guess is blank. Okay, and here's another chart that I thought was cool. This one right here, this is one like I have at school. Making inferences. And it's information from the text. Look, it's the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Plus your background knowledge, which is your schema. What do you already know about something? Okay. The information from the text plus your background knowledge equals an inference. You can infer. That means you figure out something about the text that the author did not tell you. Okay, so evidence from the text that you read plus what you already know. And these are some other things that you might think of as you're reading a story. It could be that. This could mean I infer. My guess is. I think. I know that, ... So think back to the Officer Buckle and Gloria story. Towards the end of the story, when everybody just wanted Gloria there, and Officer Buckle realized that it wasn't him that was being entertaining, and it was just Gloria that was being entertaining, Officer Buckle never actually said the words, well, Gloria is the only person they look at, but you could infer that that's what he knew once he saw the TV, and he saw Gloria jumping up in the air, right? And then he was all sad. So he never came right out and said the words, I'm sad because Gloria was doing all the fun things and I thought it was me. You just had to infer that. You had to infer that because you knew he was sad and you knew he didn't want to do any more speeches because the kids weren't really looking at him. They were looking at Gloria. So that was an inference, okay? So today, well, let me see. There's one more that I was going to show you, and that's this one. And that one's a pretty cool one here. I'll turn it this way so that you can see it. This is kind of big. It's like a puzzle, okay? So when you make an inference, you're putting the pieces together. So you take the clues in the text, the questions you have, and what you know means you can infer. And it says, when you make an inference, you go beyond the author's words to understand what is not said in the text. Okay, and that's called making an inference. All right, so today we are going to do that. I am going to show you on my sheets, and you are going to do the same thing on your sheets as soon as we are done with this, okay? So I have some examples. I have 4 little tiny stories to read to you, and then we're going to figure out what the inference is. And that's what you're going to do when we go to your reading packet, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So the first one's called Paper Money. And the directions say, read each paragraph, then fill in the bubble that best answers the question. So paper money. Have you ever looked closely at a $5 bill? Tiny red and blue fibers are all over the paper. If you hold the bill up to the light, you will see a picture. It is called a watermark. Each bill also has a number that sparkles and changes color. Another number is so small you need a magnifying glass to read it. All these things make U.S. paper money hard to copy. So right here, number 1, which sentence is most likely true? No one ever tries to copy United States paper money. The U.S. does not want anyone to copy its money. Or you need a magnifying glass to use U.S. money. So which of these sentences can you infer from the paragraph we just read? And hopefully you know that it's letter B. The U.S. does not want anyone to copy its money. So we're going to color in letter B. Okay? All right. And it didn't say that. Nowhere in this paragraph does it say the U.S. does not want anyone to copy its money. You just know that from reading this and what you already know about money. Okay? And that's how you used your inferencing. All right, the second one, on the steps. Jim was sitting on the steps to his house. He was reading a book. He was also waiting for his friends to come over. Suddenly, something tickled Jim's arm. He scratched his arm. A few minutes later, it happened again. This time, Jim saw that an ant was crawling up his arm. There were ants on the steps, too. Okay, so what can you infer about that paragraph? So number 2 says, which sentence is most likely true? Jim is sitting near an anthill? Well, that could be, but let's read all the choices just to make sure. Jim's friends brought ants? I don't think it said anything about friends, did it? Or Jim was reading about ants. Okay, now, I don't think if he was reading about ants and something would tickle his arm. And I don't think if he was just reading about them, an ant would crawl up his arm. So you know you have to make an inference, and you can infer that Jim is sitting near an anthill. That's the only way that ants would crawl up his arm, right? So you just made an inference. Okay? Pretty easy, huh? All right, we have a couple more. Animals, it's called animal colors. Animals have different forms of protection. Often they look like their surroundings. This is called camouflage. Polar bears live in cold regions. Their white fur blends in with the snow. Lions are a tan color, much like the grasslands where they live. Some caterpillars are green during the summer months. In the fall, they turn brown like the branches that they live on. So which sentence is most likely true? All animals are difficult to see. All animals change colors, or color is a form of camouflage. No, I don't think all animals are difficult to see. That one doesn't make sense, does it? And all animals change colors? I don't think so. Does your dog or your cat change colors? I don't think so. So what you can infer from the paragraph is that color is a form of camouflage. It talks all about how they are a form of camouflage. Okay? So you just made an inference. Last one. What Jake did. Jake held his breath. His head moved back and forth as he followed the acrobat. His neck hurt from looking up into the top of the tent. For a long moment, his hand paused over the bag of popcorn he held. Finally, the acrobat landed safely. Jake cheered in relief and began eating again. So which sentence is most likely true? Jack is not having a good time. Jack is at a circus show. The popcorn isn't very tasty. Okay, so it talks about following an acrobat and top of a tent. Bag of popcorn and the acrobat landing safely. So all of those are clues. So you can infer that Jake is at a circus show. And so that's the right answer, letter B. It didn't tell you that he was at a circus show. It just gave you different clues that you could look at to make an inference. Okay? So your assignment today on the matrix for reading, it says, watch my YouTube video for a lesson on making inferences, complete pages 3 and 4 in your reading packet, and upload them to Seesaw if you can. So in your reading packet, you have 2 pages that look a lot like the ones I just taught you from. Okay, so this is page 3 in your reading packet, and page 4 is on the back. And it says at the top, making inferences. So your job is to read 4 short paragraphs and to complete the answers next to them. Okay, so this one's about in the night, and then what happened on these 2 pages, and then long ago news, and helping Lena. Okay, and then you need to take pictures of your work and put those on Seesaw so that I can see that you know how to make inferences. Now, if you can read these by yourself or if you have somebody to read them to you, you can be done as soon as you do your work, or you can stay on the video and I will read it to you and you can color it in right while I'm reading. That would be fun too. So here we go. In the night. Most people do their sleeping during the day, but many wild creatures do not. Mice do much of their roaming at night. It's harder for foxes to hunt them in the dark. When otters live near people, they are more active at night. A dragonfly sheds its skin at night. It takes a few hours for the new adult's wings to grow strong. By morning, the dragonfly is ready to fly away. So which sentence is most likely true? Otters like to live near people? It is safer for some animals at night? Or wild animals have more fun at night? Okay, so that's what you need to do. You need to figure out which one of these is true. Okay, what happened? One night, something furry slipped from the hollow tree. A masked animal crept across the sidewalk. It stopped by a container. With little trouble, the animal got the lid off. Crash! The lid clattered to the ground. Mr. Tucker woke up and looked out the window. There was trash on the sidewalk. He could see a striped tail disappear around the corner. Now, I bet some of you are thinking, oh, I know what that animal is right now, don't you? So which sentence is most likely true? A raccoon got into the garbage? Mr. Tucker had a bad dream? Or an animal robbed Mr. Tucker? So use your inferencing skills. What the text says, what you already know in your head and your background, and then make your inference. Color it in. All right. And the next one, long ago news. Long ago there was no TV. No one had a radio. There were no computers, and there were very few newspapers. How did people get news? One way was from a town crier. This person walked through the streets and called out the news. If something special happened, the town crier beat a drum or rang a bell. People would run to hear the news. Okay, so which sentence is most likely true? There were few ways to get news long ago. Most news in the past appeared in print. In the past, people weren't interested in news. Okay, so which one do you think is true after reading that paragraph? And the last one, helping Lena. Lena woke up from a long nap. She tried to sit up, but it was too much trouble. Her mother came into the room. She had a tray with some juice on it. She patted the pillows and smoothed the sheets. Then she helped Lena sit up. Try to drink this, said Lena's mom. It's good for you. Number 2, which sentence is most likely true? Lena is a patient in a hospital. Lena is sick in bed at home. Lena had a bad nightmare. So go ahead, and if you need to, you can always look back in the paragraph and help get some clues. So don't just take a guess. Go back in the paragraph so that you can figure it out for sure and prove your answer. All right, so hopefully you learned how to make inferences today. And tomorrow we will be back with another reading lesson and another math lesson. And I think we'll probably do reading first like normal tomorrow. But I hope you enjoyed our Tricky, Twisty Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow, boys and girls. Bye.